Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Quratul Ainn Liyana Marzuki, Liana for short. I am an Assistant Director at the Accountants General's Department of Malaysia. To begin, let me walk you through the contents for today's presentation. For your information, in Malaysia, we use a structured accounting code that helps us classify and organize financial information. One of the key dimensions of this structure is the chart of accounts. I will give a quick overview on the other dimensions, and then we will focus on today's main topic, which is how the chart of accounts support AGDM in delivering effective and reliable financial services. Briefly, the chart of account has three main characteristics. The first one is the structure of the chart of accounts itself. The account consists of 8 characters and are created and maintained in accordance with the budget codes. This structured approach has helped AGDM in monitoring budget performance and also fiscal outlook. I will explain this in more detail shortly. The other two main characteristics of our chart of account is the centralization of codes creation and the mapping of our account codes. Now, I will explain the dimension used in coding every transaction in our system. In Malaysia, each transaction uses several coding dimensions. This dimension ensures that the source, purpose, and financial impact of a transaction can be traced across ministries, funds, and programs. Every transaction recorded in the system is coded based on the following dimension. The first one is the controlling officer, which also we call it as a segment. This represents the ministry under which the transaction is made, and it can be traced back to the relevant governing policy. The next one is the Responsibility Center code. In Malaysia, Responsibility Center is an organizational unit responsible for managing financial operations. For instance, under Ministry of Health, the Responsibility Center will be the Ministry HQ and also hospital nationwide. Each Responsibility Center code will have 8 characters, and the first few characters indicate the ministry. For example, under Ministry of Health, the Responsibility Center code will start with the code 4203, while those under the Ministry of Education, it will begin with 4150. For the fund and vote, these codes will identify which source of fund or vote is used for the transaction. The first character will indicate the fund category. For example, the B will indicate the supply vote, T for charge, P for development fund, and G for our general fund. The next one is the program and activity code. This code consists of 6 characters and is also aligned with the budget code. I will show a snippet of our budget book later to help you visualize on this. Now we will look at the profile of the chart of accounts. As I mentioned earlier, our account codes will all have 8 characters, and they are tied to the budget structure. All account codes in Malaysia are created and approved centrally at AGDM HQ to ensure consistency and avoid duplication. Mapping of account codes. For the mapping, as you have been informed in yesterday's session, in Malaysia we have dual ledgers, which are accrual and modified cash ledger. So to support both ledgers, account codes are systematically mapped between the 2 ledgers to ensure consistency across both financial reporting bases. Each transaction will first posted into the accrual ledger, and if it has cash relevance, it is mapped to the corresponding code in the cash ledger. If you look at the left side of the screen, you will see a snippet of the revenue chart of accounts. At AGDM, revenue codes account begin with the letter H, and all the codes account here are begin with the letter H. The first 3 digits are used to differentiate the revenue categories. For example, the H01 is for revenue from non-exchange transaction, while H02 is for revenue from exchange transaction. And as we go more specific, for revenue from non-exchange transaction, you can see that the H016 is used for the tax revenue, H017 for non-tax revenue, H018 for non-revenue receipt, and H019 for revenue from federal territories. Now I will explain the details on the structure of our chart of accounts that has been used by AGDM. As I explained earlier on the revenues chart of accounts, AGDM uses alphabetical prefixes as the first character of our account codes, in which the letter H has been used as the prefix for all revenue account codes. This same approach is applied across all other accounting elements as well. As you can see in the screen, A will be used for asset, L for liabilities, E for equities, and B for expenses. Using these alphabetical prefixes helps ensure that the transactions are recognized according to their substance and remain aligned with accounting standards. The remaining 7 characters in the account code are numerical, and they move from general classification to more specific details. For revenue and expenses accounts, the last 5 digits will represent the specific account classification, and these are maintained in accordance with the budget codes. This consistency helps us ensure that both budget and accounting speak the same language and remain fully aligned. These are some examples of some example on how AGDM ensure that our account codes remain consistent with the budget codes. On the left side of the screen, you can see the budget codes and also the account codes for the revenue, while on the right side is the expenses code. For revenue, the structure is quite straightforward. If the budget code for individual income tax is 61101, then the corresponding account code will be H01 61101. The same logic applies to company income tax and petroleum income tax. Their account codes are created by combining the revenue prefix H followed by the relevant category and the budget code. For expenses, the coding starts differently. The first digit of the budget code represents the type of expenses. The 10,000 series will be for the salary-related expenses, while the number 2 is for service and supplies, 3 for assets, 4 for grants and fixed fees, while 5 is for other expenses. To transform these budget codes into an account code, we add the prefix B, which indicates the expenses in our chart of accounts. You can see an example on this on the bottom right of the slide. Next, I would like to demonstrate how maintaining consistency between budget codes and accounting codes help us monitor budget performance and support the fiscal outlook. On the top right of the screen, you can see a snippet from the 2024 budget book, and just below it is the statement of operation expenditure from Malaysia's 2024 financial statements. Earlier in my presentation, I explained that the different dimensions used in our accounting code structure. Here you can see how those dimensions align across both budget and accounting. For example, B21, which is here and here, appears in both in the budget and accounting records. This represents the vote code for the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. The same applies to the program activity code 020500, which identifies the Department of Fisheries. When we look at the budget and account codes, you can see that the budget codes 10,000, 20,000, and 40,000 series are also used in the financial statements, which is here. Because these codes are used consistently, we can easily extract the actual amount spent for each budgeted item simply by filtering the related account codes. This greatly simplifies budget monitoring, as the data can be retrieved at any point of time. On the left side of the screen, you can see how the chart of accounts support the fiscal outlook. For instance, it enables us to gather and compare financial information such as petroleum-related revenue versus other revenues categories. Insights like this are valuable for policy decision, fiscal planning, and also for improving service delivery. Now, let's move on to the centralized creation of account codes. At AGDM, all account codes are created centrally, and we have a governance process in place to review and endorse any new code request. AGDM will then be responsible for finalizing the detailed description, account types, and account groups for each code. Because of this, the same chart of accounts is used across all ministries. And this will ensuring the consistency in how the financial information is recorded and reported. Since every ministry uses the same account codes, it becomes much easier for AGDM to gather the information in real time and financial information in real time. We also no longer need to follow up with ministry individually because everything flows through a unified structure. This consistency also supports the standardization of reporting, including the preparation of financial statements across ministries. It allows us to compare information accurately. Essentially, we are comparing apple to apple. However, this approach does come with some challenges. The highly granular code structure means that a very large number of account codes must be created and maintained, which may affect our system performance. Over time, this could also lead to duplicate or unused codes, which require periodic data cleaning to ensure that the system remains efficient. Lastly, we will look at the mapping of account codes. As I mentioned earlier, every transaction will be first posted into the accrual, to an account code in the accrual ledger. If the transaction is cash relevant, it will then be posted to a different account code in the cash ledger. Each account code in the accrual ledger is preset to indicate whether it has a cash relevance, and if it does, the system will automatically perform the posting to the cash ledger. Here on the screen, you can see some examples of how revenue codes account are mapped from the accrual ledger to the cash ledger. In addition to this, each account code is also mapped to the corresponding line items in the financial statements for both the accrual and cash ledger. There are, however, a few mapping challenges. One of them is many-to-one mapping, where two or more accrual ledger code accounts are mapped to a single cash ledger account code. This can add complexity in maintaining accuracy and ensuring proper alignment between the two ledgers. Moving forward, we see an opportunity to enhance the structure of our accounting code to include tagging for thematic reporting, as we are now has limited tagging for these purposes. That is all from me. Thank you.